Well, good morning and welcome to Thought for the Week. I think it was about somewhere around the year 2000 when the Christian magazine Christian History surveyed its readers and other Christian historians. And respondents to the survey were invited to name the 5 most influential, well-known Christians within the 20th century. And by a substantial margin, it was C.S. Lewis who was most often named. And of course, born in Belfast in 1898 to parents who loved books, young Jack Lewis became a book lover from childhood, and he embarked upon a scholarly career at Oxford. And he became a convinced atheist. A strange beginning for a man voted the most influential in spiritual Christian growth. But in 1929, Lewis discarded his atheism and became a theist, but by his own account, not a happy one. He described himself as a prodigal who is brought in, kicking, struggling, resentful, and darting his eyes in every direction for a chance to escape. Jack Lewis was experiencing the love of God drawing him, and 2 years later, Lewis converted to Christianity wholeheartedly. You see, Lewis had been meeting and mixing with people whom he had admired, only to discover to his horror that they were Christians. In a similar way, he had been reading his favourite authors, whom he liked, except for their Christianity. But through their influence, his understanding of God grew. He was led to recognise that if God is God, he must be obeyed. Not for the sake of any reward, but simply because, well, he is God. Lewis would write, "If you ask why we should obey God, in the last resort the answer is, because God says, I am." Lewis insists that he was no more seeking God than a mouse seeks a cat. But God was seeking him, and he responded, he submitted, and the rest, as they say, is history. We must always remember that the impulse to think about God comes from him, and that the desire to discover truth and beauty and reality is also born from him also. Jesus said, "People can't come to me unless the Father who sent me draws them to me." John 6:44. And the Lord said through Isaiah, "People who never before inquired about me are now asking about me. I am being found by people who are not looking for me. To them I have said, I am here." Isaiah 65:1. Through the people Jack Lewis met and the books he read and the beauty he saw on his long country walks and the longing in his own heart for which he found no satisfaction, Lewis eventually heard the Lord say, "I am here." It is only the sovereign grace of God that we come to believe. It is not our doing. For coming to accept and believe in the one whom the Lord has sent is finally not a human decision based on convincing or reasonable arguments. We cannot talk ourselves into faith. Often in our free church tradition, we have overemphasized our human capacity to come to Jesus or to be saved. With such a viewpoint, salvation would then become our business because we put human choice at the center. It is nonetheless, however, true that there is a response that we humans make. It's a sacred journey, often fraught with struggle, from indifference and unbelief to faith and acceptance. But it is God's sovereign grace that invites us, chooses us, and marks out the way of this pilgrimage into faith. The initiative is his, and we respond. John Calvin put it like this: "Faith is not at man's disposal, so that this man or that may believe indiscriminately and by chance, but that God elects those whom he hands over, as it were, to his Son. Lewis's earlier years were years where he wasn't looking and listening. But once he did, his life became a vehicle through which the Lord began to speak. In fact, every converted life is supposed to be a pulpit from which the Lord proclaims clearly to people who may not be listening to, I am here. And we finish there for today. God bless for now.